Hello friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for joining me in today's video. Now, a few weeks ago, I did a video reaction to patriotism in the United States. And if you haven't seen that video yet, I will leave a card up here and a link in the description to that video. And in this week's video, I want to react to a video that covers 5 things you may not know about dealing with patriotism in Germany. Now, this is from a channel called Simply German. I've seen a couple of their videos in the past, 2 young ladies, one from Guatemala, the other from Germany. And I would like to get their perspective on patriotism in Germany. Now, we all know about patriotism in the United States and how just outlandish it can be sometimes, especially to those from other countries looking in, where in their country it may not be such a huge deal. Germany, for instance, but there's not a whole lot of talk about patriotism in other countries unless you are from that country, like Mexico. I know they're a very proud nation. I guess Guatemala might be if I'm, reading into the future a little bit. But Germany, having been in Germany before in my life and my wife being German, there's not that overly drastic sense of pride and patriotism and waving the German flag everywhere. I think I mentioned it in my last video about how you rarely see people just flying German flags unless it's during a major sporting event like the World Cup. You're not going to see houses lining the streets with German flags in flagpoles all along the sidewalk, whereas here in the United States, that is very common. It is also common to see big trucks waving the American flag out the back. It's like I said in the last video, I don't know if they forgot where they came from and that's a reminder when they go out to their truck and they see a flag from the United States. And, oh yeah, that's where I'm from. I don't know. But let's just stop. Let's get into the video and let's find out 5 things we may not know about German patriotism.
Patriotism in Germany might be very different to what you're used to at home. Germans show appreciation for their country in very different ways than, let's say, Guatemala, where I'm actually from. In this video, we explore 5 things I did not know about German patriotism. So stick around if you want to know what they are. Hey, my name is Jen and I'm from Guatemala.
And mine is Yvonne and I'm German.
And together we're from Simple Germany, where we help you settle into life in Germany more smoothly.
Additional to this YouTube channel, we also run our website simplegermany.com. There we have written in-depth guides on topics that we don't cover on YouTube, but help you navigate your life in Germany more smoothly. So check them out.
So we must clarify that this topic of patriotism in Germany, it's a very controversial topic. And we would like to also clarify that we are doing this video with the intention of just showing the different side of Germany, because when you come from countries like Guatemala or Mexico comes into mind where they're very patriotic,
The US.
or the US, things might just seem a little bit odd at the beginning, or quiet. And of course, everyone has their own opinion of what patriotism is, so we will try to give a very objective, even though it's a kind of subjective topic. So why is this so controversial in Germany?
I would say for Germans it's not even that controversial. It's just when confronted about it, there is maybe a different reaction than you might expect. And I think the whole subject starts with the definition of patriotism.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's not controversial in Germany because it's only controversial when other people are comparing patriotism from their country or a different country to Germany. That's the only time it becomes controversial. So she's absolutely right. Germans don't find it controversial.
I would say very often, at least from German perspective, patriotism gets associated with pride or feeling proud.
Okay.
Because that is maybe what, when we look at the US, which is like overpowering, I would say, in that sense, and it's very popular in the media, that is an extreme way of expressing pride for a country. And a German is not comfortable in that level. So that's why there's this association with pride, which is a very difficult word.
Yes, also because, correct me if I'm wrong, because pride might also leave that feeling of feeling superior to others, and Germans don't necessarily like feeling that way.
Right. So for the research of this video, because obviously we we don't want to just convey our opinions. We obviously watched some other YouTube videos on the topic, and we of course also looked at the Easy German video where they went to the streets and actually really asked Germans. And I found that video very, very interesting, and I can only encourage you to also watch it at some point, because the answers that we have gotten, and the generations that were young and old, you know, female and male, from different parts of the country, and the answers were like 50-50. Some say, yes, of course I'm proud, and others say, no, I would not call it pride, because how can I be proud of something that I didn't achieve? And I didn't achieve being German. I was just lucky being born here.
I've actually, a few people commented that on my last video about US patriotism, and it's that whole pride thing. How can you be proud of something if you didn't achieve it? And I completely understand that and agree that how are you proud to be something if you didn't have a choice in the matter? Now, I do also believe there's maybe a slightly different definition of being proud, where you may not have accomplished something, but you have a sense of pride of who you are or where you're from, where you came from, that really is out of your control because you can't decide on where you're born. So I think there's maybe a slightly different definition just based on context maybe, but I did receive comments about that exact comment that I can't be proud of something if I didn't achieve it myself. Makes sense.
I didn't achieve, and I didn't achieve being German. I was just lucky being born here. Another association that comes to the word proud, or being expressing pride, is that you silently agree to everything that your country or government is doing. And that for a German is, yeah, we are very critical.
Yes, that is very true. And also, I must add that maybe sometimes patriotism has this sense of being borderline nationalist, which, of course, as we all know history, Germans are very careful about that as well.
Yes.
Versus, for example, I would say in Guatemala, the country that I was born and raised, when you ask people, are you proud of being Guatemalan? Their immediate answer is yes. And if you ask why, a lot of the answer has to do more with like, oh, because I am proud of like our custom and traditions and our ancestry, meaning like the Mayans that lived there long ago. So also has like a different relationship, I must say, than maybe in Germany. Now let's.
And that's interesting to point out as well, that they're proud to be Guatemalan because of their history, because of their ancestry, you know, the country before them. Now, I'm curious to know if we were to ask a bunch of United States citizens if they were proud of the United States. I guarantee you it would be a very high percentage that would say yes. I'm curious to know why, what their answer would be if they were asked why. Why are you so proud of the United States? I can imagine a good percentage of those people would say because we are the best country in the world, or because we have freedom, or because all those cliche, you know, canned answers that we always hear. That would be an interesting video. I wonder if there's one out there already. If you know, drop a comment. I would love to react to that video. But that's very interesting that, you know, some people find the being proud because of the history of that country. Now, obviously, based on history, Germans are going to be very reluctant to say they're proud based on their history. Obviously, you're going to have those few that are of that mind, that didn't have a problem with what happened in the past, but I think majority aren't going to say, I am proud of Germany, of being German because of Germany's history. That would probably raise some eyebrows and some weird looks. And the comment on patriotism being a very fine line between nationalism, I've talked about this a number of times, and that's something that Germans won't go to, that nationalistic feeling, or, you know, And that's something that Germans won't commit to. You know, they won't go that far. And so very interesting on the reason why certain people feel proud.
Long ago. So also has like a different relationship, I must say, than maybe in Germany. Now let's dive into the 5 things that surprised me a little bit when I arrived to Germany regarding patriotism. Number 1 is that the national anthem is rarely sung.
That is very true. In fact, the only time that I can remember singing the anthem is during sports events.
Like
during
the World
a World
Cup.
Cup, during a Euro Cup, during but I also maybe the Olympic Games, especially when I was younger and I was an athlete myself and I was totally into it.
Okay.
But usually only for big sporting events relating to soccer.
Wow, okay. In Guatemala, for example, we sing the national anthem like every chance we get. Like we sing it in school very often. There's a lot of also like plays that you create together and you sing it before then. Also sporting events. And I would say our national anthem is like pretty long. It's like 5 minutes long. It has a lot of lyrics. You need to learn a lot. Compared to the anthem that is sung in Germany, the short version, it's only around 1.5 minutes, maybe.
It's interesting that you say short version because for me it's like the version. By saying short version, Jen is implying that we are only actually singing our 3rd verse. So verse 1 is actually forbidden due to history.
Yeah.
Verse 2, I've, to be honest, never really heard of. No one talks about it.
Yeah.
And verse 3 is our national anthem.
Yeah, and the reason why the first verse is forbidden is because there's a sentence there that says Germany over all. And as we know, this sense of superiority, like it's a no-go. Number 2 on my list.
And here in the United States, the national anthem is sung every chance people get. Before every sporting event, no matter how important that sporting event is, no matter what sport that is, no matter what level you are playing at, from Little League, little kids to the pros, the national anthem is sung before every game. It is sung before high school events, wrestling, football, basketball, those sports. It is, and this is what just blows my mind. There is a radio channel here in Arizona that I don't know if they still do because I just stopped listening to the radio. But every single day at noon, they played the national anthem. I mean, that is absurd to me. I'm sorry. You know, it's one thing to sing the national anthem at a world event where you have multiple nationalities, multiple countries. You're waving your country flag, you're singing your country's national anthem. That's great. That's fine. I have no problem with that. But to have it play over the radio every day at 12 o'clock seems a bit like brainwashing, seems a bit like indoctrination, much like saying the Pledge of Allegiance every day at school. I did that in grade school. I remember standing up with my hand over my heart, saying the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Looking back on it now, that's absurd. That's absolutely, you know, I might piss a lot of people off by saying this, but it's kind of disgusting. You know, to be honest, it's not something I want my kids to do. I don't think they ever had to do it. I'm sure it's still done in some areas, in some schools, but the national anthem, it just gets on my nerves now. It's so overdone that it's kind of lost meaning, if you know what I mean. Like, it's not as important anymore because it's just everywhere. Now, if it was to be saved for these massive national, international events, I feel like I would get behind it a little bit more. But because it's everywhere all the time, it's like, okay, it's the national anthem, you know. So I know that Germany doesn't do the national anthem except for these big events. I've been there. I never once just, you know, went somewhere and people started singing the national anthem. I guarantee you could go anywhere in the United States, and if you just started singing it out of nowhere, everybody would join in. It's just one of those things. I don't know.
And as we know, this sense of superiority, like it's a no-go. Number 2 on my list is that also the amount of German flags that you see might not be as big as you might be used to if you, for example, have ever been to the US or you are from the US. Or I would say
What I talked about a little bit before we started the video, flags are everywhere in the United States, but again, you don't see them everywhere in Germany, state capitals, government buildings, things like that.
Guatemala, we're not super big fans of like putting your big Guatemalan flag in front of your like garden or home. However, in Germany, there seems to be maybe very little or no flags. And the ones that you do see are maybe in like a shared garden area. And where German flags actually are seen the most is during, for example, the World Cup.
Exactly. Again, back to topic number 1, the one time we are actually confident and proud in a way to express where we are from or where we live is during soccer events, and mainly the World Cup. And I would say that started in 2006 when Germany hosted the World Cup. That was the first time that I vividly remember, so do my parents who have a bit of a longer memory, that we actually were really proud to express our colors and show our colors. And since then, that kind of like became a tradition, but only for the World Cup or the Euro Cup.
Yeah, or any other stadium sport events.
Also for the Handball Cup, that's true, the Handball World Cup. So exactly like you just expressed, big stadium events.
Yeah, and outside of these events, you don't see the colors as often as in other countries. An additional thing is that you will rarely see, outside of the sporting events, German flags being printed on like stickers or pins or t-shirts, or like t-shirts saying like, I am proud to be a...
Unless you're buying it as a souvenir and it's kind of more of a tongue-in-cheek or not necessarily gag gift, but I've had German stickers, but it's more that tourist sticker type deal. My wife and I both had a little Germany sticker on our car. Unfortunately, the sun here in the desert has completely faded the whole thing. You can't see any color in it anymore. But I feel like that's where you're going to find more of these little trinkets. It's going to be that little shop in the airport, on your way out of Frankfurt. You're on your way back home and I need something from Germany, and you get this little refrigerator magnet that's got the flag and the colors, or a Bierstein, or whatever. I feel like it's more touristy than people in Germany having stickers of Germany.
German, people walking on the street with that, that doesn't really happen. The clearest example I have for this is that once we were in the airport, we were traveling, I think, to the US, and one of the staff members from the airline had a massive pin on his jacket that was from Mexico. And I'm like, oh, that's true. Mexicans are also super proud to be Mexicans, and they show their colors wherever it is possible. And I asked Yvonne, do you think it would be the same? Would a German also have like a massive pin with a German flag?
Never, no.
Yeah, and that is also super interesting. Number 3 is that when Germans are proud to come from somewhere, usually it has to do with the region.
That is very true, yeah. Like Jen just mentioned, the flags in like gardens or whatsoever, it's usually also, again, soccer-related clubs or other sports, like the flag of your club. The flag of your region. You have tons of songs about, areas of Germany and the love for that area.
Yeah.
So the regional pride, that is real pride, and that is very, very strong.
Yeah. Like, for example, put 2 people of like Cologne and Dusseldorf, ask them if they're proud to where they come from. I'm pretty sure you will get a very heated conversation.
But not just Cologne and Düsseldorf, but literally every area. Like, it can be as small as cities, but also areas in terms of Bavaria, but also Franken, which is technically part of Bavaria, but they don't want to be called Bavarians. So, the regional pride is very, very big.
And complicated. Even though this is a sensitive...
And that is very true. Even when I lived over there, I had not flags necessarily, but the foosball banners, the scarves, really. And you could get those for any club over there. I think that's more of something people display at their home or whatever, is that they're proud of their soccer team or of, the region they live in. I still don't think there's anybody in my wife's hometown that has a flag of any sort. Region, country, sporting. They might in their backyard, in the back garden, but displayed out for the public, you don't see it. And I wonder if that really comes down to also the fact that Germans are kind of private. that they don't have this outward pouring of pride or of anything else. That it's more, they're private. It's them. Like religion or anything like that. They don't go around talking to everybody about it. It's their business. It's nobody else's business. So I wonder if that kind of has something to do with it. Obviously, there's exceptions to everything, and you could go to maybe some other cities. Obviously, I haven't been to every city in Germany. I know from where I've been, but I can understand why it would be more reasonable to see flags or banners from the region you're in, because that's where you grew up, that's where your family grew up. You have ties to that area. Your soccer team or your, whatever team. You have banners for that, but I still don't think that they display them publicly a lot. So
Regional pride is very, very big.
And complicated. Even though this is a sensitive topic, if you are liking the video so far, please make sure to hit that like button. And you haven't subscribed to our channel, make sure to do so you get notified when we release a new video. And if you want to go the super extra mile, you can always buy us a coffee
Subscribe
at simplegermany.com/coffee. This is a small contribution that you can give directly to this channel to help support the mission of Simple Germany. Now, continuing with the program. Number 4 is a Independence Day-ish. So for example, in Guatemala, we celebrate the day that we became independent, that we kicked the Spanish people out, but the Mexicans were still there, but that's a different story. And there's like a big day where you celebrate like your Guatemalan pride. There are parades, there are festivals, it's like a big thing. Even in school, before the day arrives, because also it's a national holiday, you even prepare like some sketches and stuff that you do to commemorate your ancestry and to be proud or show the Guatemalan colors. And I would say in Germany, at least from what I have experienced, but you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that this doesn't really happen. And the one day that would come the closest to that, I mean, it's a very recent also day, is a reunification day.
Correct, right. I was going to say we don't really have an Independence Day, but the national holiday is the reunification day on 3rd of October. And it is a public holiday. And there are some festivities, celebrations, and commemorations in Berlin, mainly, I would say, because that's kind of like where it happened, when the wall came down, per se. However, outside of Berlin, it's not like I would say, hey, let's go to the parade, or hey, let's celebrate us being German on the 3rd of October. No.
Yeah, that doesn't happen, right? Which I find super interesting. Versus us, we would say in Guatemala, let's go to the parade. And at the end of it all, we also have fireworks. Yeah, so that's a very big thing.
We also have fireworks in Berlin.
In Berlin. But like, for example, in Düsseldorf, which is the 7th largest city in Germany, we don't. Number 5 is that...
I don't know why that's so weird to her, that there's not every country celebrates an Independence Day. Not every country broke away from something larger to become independent. But very, very true on the reunification day. I know that I'm sure that they celebrate that in Berlin more than anywhere else, because that was kind of the epicenter of the whole thing. And in my wife's hometown, while it may be a national holiday, it's not something that they close the town down for and have massive parades going down and everybody partying. That's just, it may be another one of those things that that's history. It's something that they've moved on from. Let's not dwell on it. Let's not do anything like that. I could be way off base here, so if you're German and I'm wrong or you feel a different way, please leave a comment down below. This is just kind of my thoughts on it, being that Germans aren't very proud when it comes to a lot of their history. So I wonder if this is kind of one of those things where, yes, in Berlin, they're going to celebrate, have fireworks and parties and celebrate the reunification. And it is Germany-wide, right? Because it was East Germany, West Germany. It's not just Berlin that was affected. The entire country was affected by this. But because Berlin, on what happened there in particular, I feel like they would celebrate it a little bit more. maybe you could compare that to if there was any sort of thing that happened here in the United States, if it happened in one city. I mean, it affected, let's take 9/11, for example. Obviously, completely not the same thing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to compare the reunification of Germany to the events that took place on 9/11. Complete opposite, as a matter of fact. But the point I'm trying to get at is that that hit New York City. It affected the entire country. It affected the world. But because it happened in New York City, I feel like New Yorkers are more aware of that and may, not celebrate, but maybe remember that day, take it harder maybe. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but it affected everybody in the country. But because it wasn't directly in their backyard, there's kind of a separation. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying that that's just natural. So in Berlin, the wall came down in Berlin. Obviously, the wall was much larger than just Berlin. It went all the way around. But that was the epicenter. So I think people that are from there, who live through that, are hyper aware of that. Whereas people in the Southwest or down in Bavaria or Northwest that weren't immediately affected by the wall coming down, just by the simple act of a physical wall being broken down, they're distanced a little bit. Yes, they are going to celebrate that as a national holiday, but they aren't going to be lighting fireworks and having parties in the street. Am I making any sense? I feel like I may have just confused a lot of people, but leave a comment down below on your feelings of this matter, because that's very interesting. Obviously, the United States, Independence Day, the 4th of July, or July 4th, however you want to say it, huge holiday here. Everything, every city, small town, country town, they're going to celebrate. They're going to launch fireworks. They're going to have parties. And it's the Independence Day, obviously. And even while I was in Germany in the military, we celebrated the 4th of July in our own way, wherever we were over there. So, interesting point.
That as a foreigner in Germany, when you hear Germans speak about their country, you might be a little bit surprised on how they communicate that, because Germans tend to be very critical.
So this is exactly the point. We are very critical people, meaning even though things are really great, especially from an outsider's perspective, like our healthcare system, our education system, our whatsoever amazing system that gives us our lifestyle, we still point out the things that don't work. We still criticize the areas of the government that don't work, which, I mean, obviously is fair, and that is also what keeps things running in a way, I would say.
True.
But we tend to point out the not so well working things over the great things that we should appreciate more. However, deep down, or I would say in a conversation, we are actually very appreciative of our country. And even though not all of us can use the word proud, we are very happy to live here. We are very happy, and we feel privileged to have the lifestyle that we have. So I would say it's just a matter of phrasing it and approaching the topic in the right way.
So even though on the surface level, it might not seem that Germans are very proud to be Germans, I mean, this is also compared to the very extreme examples of US, Mexico, and Guatemala, I would say Germans do show their love and appreciation in other ways. For example, is by keeping their traditions and their customs very alive. Very regional festivals are very celebrated. People go and celebrate that. They are part of different Vereins to keep traditions like Carnival, the Schützenfest, the Oktoberfest, and all these very cultural things alive. And I would say people are very proud in doing such things.
I would 100% agree. And this is exactly what I try to also bring across, that we are proud and we value a lot where we come from and the way we were raised and our traditions. However, the connection of I'm proud of Germany or I'm proud to be German, for some, not for all, is not a sentence that would come to the mind, or they would have to think about why they should be proud or if they're actually proud. So if you ask me, and I've actually thought about the topic, and to be honest, it never even came up when I was raised or when I was a teenager. But the time when I realized that, oh, that could be something to think about is when I was actually abroad. And the first thing people ask is, where are you from? And my obvious answer would be, I'm from Germany. And 90% of the times the reaction would be a very positive, a very respectful one, a very admirable one. And I had to think, like, understand why that was and learn about it. And that actually gave me a sense of being proud.
Yeah. So actually, when you were far away from home is when you realized actually you are proud to be a German.
Yeah, because that made me reflect on what makes them admire Germany beyond the history.
Yeah, which I would say Germany is pretty awesome. I absolutely love it. And you should be proud to be German.
To be honest, Jen was the one that kind of like asked to do this video, and I was very hesitant and needed a little bit convincing because it is simply a topic that we don't really talk about, you know. But since we are talking about it, and it's also important, I think, to address topics that are not always that smoothly, here is the question for all of you beautiful Germans out there. Is it a topic that you address? Do you feel proud, if you want to use that word? Or what is your relationship to patriotism as a German?
Yeah, I will also be very curious to read those answers in the comments below. I will dare to say that the one thing Germans will always agree that they're proud of is their bread. We have a whole video answering the top questions from foreigners regarding German bread that you can check out next, or in the card that's showing up now. Until next time, cheers!
All right, so very interesting points about patriotism in Germany. I knew most of that already, just being married to a German, living in Germany for 5 years. They really don't have an outward sense of pride a lot of times. It's more a personal thing, and that makes sense. Germans are kind of an inward, you know, they don't express a lot of things unless they really get to know you and it comes up in conversation, I guess. But here in the United States, it's just in your face. You know, patriotism is one of those things that everybody is proud of here, and it can be a little obnoxious at times with the flags, the national anthem, the national pride everywhere. And don't get me wrong, I don't see a big problem with it if it's done in moderation. You know, there's no problem, there's nothing wrong with being proud of where you're from. I don't want anybody to get the idea that I'm completely against patriotism. It's just one of those tricky subjects where patriotism can lead to nationalism, and that's where the problems come. When you become more nationalistic. And I know in the video they stated that Germans are pretty critical, and they don't just sit back and let things happen. They criticize the government for things that they're doing wrong, or things that the German people feel like they could do better. And it's the same here in the United States. That's what I do. I criticize the United States because I know it can do better. I want it to do better. And it's not because I hate the United States. Just like a German's not going to criticize the German government because they hate Germany. It's the exact opposite. They like where they are from, they want to be there, and they want things to be different. That's patriotism. Nationalism is thinking everything's fine. I don't care who you are. We're better than you. Let's rah, 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 wave the flag, you know, shove it in people's faces, paint our face like the flag, wear a flag shirt, wear flag shorts, hat. It's just overdone to the point where it loses its meaning. It really loses its value because it's done so much. It's like anything in excess is a negative thing, and it's not so grand anymore. If you're singing the national anthem every single day at noon on the radio, you become numb to it, and it doesn't have the same meaning. It doesn't impact you the same way. I used to get goosebumps and teary-eyed every time I heard the United States national anthem, and that was probably because of the amount of time I spent in the U.S. military, and I did have pride of my country, maybe misplaced pride, but Now I can't listen to the national anthem. I'm sick and tired of it. It's everywhere. It's played everywhere. It's overplayed. And what really gets me is when they have somebody sing the national anthem or perform the national anthem at a sporting event and they completely butcher the thing. They want to make it their own. They change notes. They hold on to notes. They change this. If you're gonna sing it the way it was written. Don't try and make it a pop star song or a rap song or a rock song. That's not what it is. That's the other thing that just gripes me, is that they just try and put a spin on it to create, like they're being artistic about it. No, you're destroying what it was meant to be. I've never heard German national anthem played like a pop song. You just, if you're gonna do it, just do it right. Don't change it. End of story. Okay. Good points. If you have anything to add, please leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear what you all have to say about it, especially if you live in Germany. And for those of you who are here in the United States, do you agree, disagree? Let's have a conversation about it. I'm not afraid to read comments that tell me that I just hate the United States. Go ahead, throw that down in the comments too. Like the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to see more. I am going to release another video on Thursday. It is a little more lighthearted, a little more fun. It has something to do with trucks. So be ready for that one to drop on Thursday. And I think that's it. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so much for sticking with me and watching today's video. I really appreciate each and every one of you. And until the next time, I'll catch you later. Bye.